Hello and welcome to Stockwatch, presented by me, Evan Lucas, for Go Market Securities. As always, please have a very good read through of the disclaimer on screen. Everything in this video is general in nature, none of which relied upon as any form of personal advice. Go Market Securities does not know your personal scenario nor your personal financial goals, and therefore none of which relied upon as any form of advice at all. It is just general in nature only. ESG, it is one of the biggest talking points in markets these days. In fact, all firms now consider ESG one of their highest priorities of what they're doing. What is ESG? It's environmental, social, and governance. And that is how you become an ethical company and therefore an ethical investment. The thing is though, some people get confused with this. ESG does not mean that it is just solely about climate change. It does not solely mean it's about governance or about social issues. It's a combined of that. And why I want to say that is that there is sometimes a misconception that therefore something that is considered ethical would be considered not on one of those levels. So let's have a look at that example. One of the best examples straight out there right here and now is Fortescue. Fortescue is an ethical company. However, on the environmental side, it probably breaks down. It has and does something that is clearly environmentally destructive. But what they are very good at doing is actually making sure that they repossess the land that they have and recondition it. They then make sure they return it to as much as normal as they possibly can. It's still not going to be perfect, but it does enough. But where they are really strong, incredibly strong in fact, is on the on the S and the G side. Let's have a look at the G side. The government side, they have near enough to half of their board and their C-suite as women. They have a CEO as a woman as well. They're very, very strong on their governance and they are very, very compliant. Socially, they are also probably one of the strongest out there. They employ one of the highest level of the Indigenous community that's out there. They also make sure they engage with the Indigenous community incredibly strongly, such as building housings and hospitals for them in the areas that they operate. That is a very good social side. And those two measures together, when you offset that against the E, is why Fortescue is considered ethical. And don't take my word for it. This is done by the RIAA, the Responsible Investment Association of Australasia. They are the ones that verify this. Now, on the flip side, somebody like Rio Tinto is not. They have an environmental problem, and we know that, but they also have an issue around the fourth and final part of these ethical considerations, which is controversies. The Gorgon Gorge project and the blowing up of that area has meant that Rio Tinto will find it very, very hard for several years to even be considered an ethical investment. They don't have the great governance, they certainly don't have the level of female participation that they should. Social is okay, and the environment is not that fantastic either. So all of those taken together is why they're considered unethical. And when you compare them to Fortescue, that's the difference. But, and I want to make this very clear, ethical investing does not mean straight climate change. And if you're after that, you need to do a bit more digging, because firms cannot all be around the environment. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. They are trying their hardest to do it. But it is and should be highlighted like this. ESG is the future. Companies know that. We are investing that way. Climate change is something that we have to address. And that is why people like yourselves that are trying to make sure that you invest as ethically as you can and as consciously as you can is not just good for your overall long-term idea. The consciousness that it means in firms makes them better as well.